Welcome to the live for the final time in 2022 before we head into 2023. And I'm calling this one Why 2023 is going to be your best year ever. That's right. Stick around with me now for the next, I don't know, somewhere between 30 and 60 minutes. I'm going to go swiftly and fast-paced. I don't want to be here any longer than I need to be. And for people who are in the room with me, hello to you all there. I see you there, Cindy, David, thank you for joining. So I want to be able to have those conversations with you as well. So if there are questions, drop those in the chat as we go and I'll answer those. If you're watching this on a recording somewhere and you're seeing this after the event, then do feel free to drop questions or comment on the video wherever you see that. And I will make every single effort to get back to you and have a conversation with you and answer those questions for you. Okay, so let's jump in. I have a slide deck here and I'm going to move over to that slide deck. It'll take me 2 seconds to bring it up on screen and we will dive straight in with this. Okay, so here it is. Why 2003 will be your best year ever. And the first thing I'm going to start with, Sunday, the 1st of January, that is the first blank page of a 365-page book. And it's your opportunity to write a classic. That's right. Every single day, you have an opportunity to decide to make a difference to your life. You have the opportunity to decide to write another wonderful page in your life. And most people don't do this. Most people drift from day to day. And I'm not saying we don't have bad days. We do have bad days, but not all of those days are bad. And so it sometimes makes sense for us to figure out on the bad days, what still went right. You know, simple exercise for you to do. You can do this right off the bat, make notes of this. You can journal at the end of every single day. What are the good things I did today? What went well for me? And write that down. It's going to make a massive difference to your results. I'm going to just change the view here. So we just go to speak only, and I'm going to close this other participants window. And I think we're in a pretty good shape here. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so let's start with this. One of the things that I always start with in some of these training sessions is just to remind you, you are supposed to be here. You are here watching this video for exactly the reason that you need to be here. And the reason that you're alive is another reason that you are here. So there's something in this world for you. It's an infinitesimal challenge and result that you were here. The chances of your great-grandparents would meet, the chances your grandparents would meet, your parents, and for you to be the one to make it here. It was supposed to be. And so what I want to implore and kind of exude on this conversation with you today is for you to realize I am special. I am unique. I'm not like anything else. You look at anything in nature, right? You could go and walk into the woodland or you walk into the forest. There's a lot of similarities, but everything is different. And that is you too. Everything where you look, it doesn't matter whether it's leaves or trees, or brambles or bushes or pathways or bridges, whatever's in that park, it's different. Even though a park looks similar, every single park looks similar, every single component is different. And that is why you are supposed to be here. So you're supposed to be here to do something. And that's what this session is about. So what I want to start there is and talk about, oh, well, let me tell you this. It took me a long time to realize that too. So you probably don't realize it yet. Or if you do, you're here to find out, how do I take my reason or find my reason or get the thing going? And that's okay. So we're going to run into that too. And it took me a long time, you know, even in that kind of early stage of my life, 0 to 20, it's going to take a long time for you to figure out what it is that your reason is. It's going to take a long time maybe to figure out what's next for you. And so I want to make sure that you're clear about that. And it takes time. So be okay with, if you don't know what your reason is yet, and if you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, or even older than that, let's say, we don't want to use age as old, a level higher than that. I always like level 50, level 60, level 70, sounds more badass. So that's what we're going to talk about. You got to focus on the things that are more important to you. So the place to start with this reason is the things that are important to you. And if you don't have that list written down somewhere, I recommend you go and make notes about that. Write down your list. What is important to me? And when you go through the list, the next thing to do is to identify how much of that can you control. That's a really important part. A lot of people don't find their reason because they're trying to control something outside of themselves. Now, I'm not saying we can't persuade and we can't influence things, but it makes more sense if you can control those things for yourself. The second thing to do as you look for your reason is to take extreme personal responsibility. That's right. You're going to make no more excuses, because another reason why you may not have found it yet is because there's been too many excuses, too many reasons why not too many reasons why. And if I was in conversation with you, I would always ask why. I wouldn't ask why not. I'd ask you why in our interrogation at the beginning, but then I would ask you more about who. Who should we be connected with? Who should we be following? Who should we be modeling? What should we be looking at that's going to give us the answers? That would be the next thing. So you have to take charge, and you have to see yourself as a leader, because as you're that single component in this bigger system, your role is to lead. Just like in that woodland or in that forest, everything is unique and on its own. You are that thing too. So everything in that forest is leading. It's making a difference. One function that it serves is making a difference to what's going on around it. And you see this in, whether it's a David Attenborough program or anything about the wildlife or natural world, and you see this happening. We are part of this. We are in this natural world. So you've got to embrace this. Okay. As we go forward, we're looking at our reasons. Let's see possibility and opportunity rather than, as I'll share with you in a moment, I don't know whether I can do that because I think that was already done before. I don't know whether I can do that because I don't even know if it's possible to do that. I don't know whether I'm the person who could ask the right questions. I don't even know what questions to ask. Let me share a little secret with you about that. Your gut instinct is much more powerful than you'll ever know. And the reason being is because it's driven by two extremely powerful things in our lives. One is our passion. That gut instinct, that intention, that intuition we have, it's driven by what we're passionate about. So the things that mean the most to us, the things that are important to us, are in our guts. And so inside of us, there's this intestinal fortitude, this intestinal strength. And that's what's important for us to connect to. So your gut instinct matters. And the other reason why your gut instinct matters is because it's the home of something vital for your long-term success, your long-term survival, your longevity on this planet, and that is patience. It is vital that your gut instinct is followed because it teaches you to be passionate and to follow with patience. And that's a really important part of dreaming for something for you in your life, especially as we write that 365-page book for you every single day next year. That's a vital component of this. The last thing I want you to do is to head into the new year, not with a long list of New Year's resolutions and not with a long list of goals. I actually think goal setting has lost its way. And simplifying that process will make much more sense to you. And it's more about, what do I want to see? Who do I want to be? Where do I want to go? Who do I want to be with? Just narrowing the scope of your goals and keeping them maybe to no more than 3 big goals for next year is going to allow you to achieve at least one, because I would only ever ask you to work on one until you've got that achieved. That's the power of discipline and the power of commitment. We're going to talk about those things today. These things that I'm talking to you about, to open this up, just to kind of engage with you, that it's taken me a long time. And I'm somebody who had a 25-year career success journey where I went from the junior data analyst to the managing director and the chief officer of a $95 million software company. And then stepped away from all of that because I knew that I could make more impact with more people. And I was right, by the way, it didn't take long to do this because I was working with thousands of people, but I wanted to impact hundreds of thousands. And just in the last 3 years alone, I'm already way past 100,000 people who have seen at least one piece of my message. And that's a much more impactful, meaningful pursuit for me, much more enjoyable to know that somebody saw my message. I know in November alone, when I launched my course, 22,000 people at least took a look at that course. That's a really powerful thing. And, in the process of doing all of that, I've grossed millions of dollars. And so that's been a really powerful thing as well for you to kind of grab hold of, is your impact is much, much greater than you can think of. You're much stronger than you think you are. So let's head back over to the slides here. And I'm going to do that. I've got lots of people queuing up to get in. I'm just going to stop that list there. And here we go. So go back over to the slide. And we're going to jump in to the number of points I want to make with you today. And I'm going to be here. We'll do half a dozen things that are going to allow you, why your best year is coming is because you focus on these 6 things. Half a dozen things that I think are going to make a massive difference to you. And the first one is to take a change to create a chance, or to take a chance to make a change. And we do that through philosophy. And so before I tell you about philosophy or my recommendations or my solutions or my advisory comments here in this training, I want to start with telling you philosophy. What's that? You know, I went to seminars and workshops, and I would hear people talk about this thing called philosophy. And I really couldn't connect with that word. And it's because I'm not an A grade student. There's times that I wasn't even a B grade student. There were some fails along the way too. But not knowing what philosophy was, it really didn't allow me to connect to it easily. And you may be that way too. But I want to just change it to thought. And it's our way of living by the way we think. That's what philosophy is. It's our way of living driven by the way that we think about life. Because reality is neutral. Reality is neutral for everybody, but perception is down to you. That's why it's really important that we understand what philosophy is. And so one of the big dangers with philosophy and the way we think and our thoughts is that 90% of our thoughts are the same every single day. That means if you have lots of positive creation, you're going to think those things every day and you're going to always be positive and creating. But it also means if you're having hardship and difficulty and there are negative influences in your life, people trying to drag you down, those thought processes that you're associated with, I don't know my why, I don't know my reason, I don't know what my purpose is, I can't get out of this depression, I'm still feeling anxious, because those same thoughts are running 90% of the time, all day long, every day. So we have to take a chance on change, or change for the chance for our way of living to improve. Is that making sense? And some of these things were complex to me. I could never really understand them, but once I'd learned from, some of the great speakers in this space, that 90% of our thoughts are the same every day comes from a wonderful gentleman. And you can take a look at his work, Dr. Joe Dispenza. He's been a mentor of mine from a distance. I've not worked with him closely. He doesn't know who I am, and I don't get any endorsement or affiliation or fee for telling you that he's a really good guy to go and check out. But he's taught me that I've programmed my body in essence, and that my thoughts have programmed my cells, and my cells work in the same way every day because my thoughts are doing the same thing every single day. So how do we get past this? What's next for us? Well, the first thing is to really become who we are supposed to be. And a lot of us are living a life with a mask on. We're not living the life that we were here for, that we're designed for, the one that we are to be ourselves. And I spent so much of my life wearing the mask, and I was still wearing the mask as recently as 2018. And it's only in the last 4 years that I've been on this transformational personal and professional journey to change the way my egoic thought processes have been, all about power and prestige and getting to the next level, not realizing that when I drop those things and I become more of a servant and a leader by serving others, I started to see massive changes in not only my connections and my circle. I started to leave behind those people who were dragging me down, but I also started to become who I am. And a lot of what you're seeing on camera today is a little bit more of me being me. This is not the smile of a man who sat in an office managing 1,000 people. I wasn't smiling doing that job. I wasn't smiling because the paychecks were great. That's not what made me happy. What made me happy was doing exactly what I'm doing right now, which is to train you by being myself and knowing who I am on the inside. And who I am on the inside is I like playing the role of captain and leader. And that doesn't mean to say that I'm the best person. I'm no better than anybody else. In fact, you're no better than anybody else either, but you're no worse than anybody else. So knowing who you are is really important. So you have to study this. So one of the things I recommend for your best year ever in 2023 is that you study how to know yourself better. And this is vitally important if you don't have any goals. If you don't have a thing that you're going to chase, you don't have a reason, you don't have a mission, you don't have a purpose for 2023, I'll give you one. Work on you. Get to know who you really are. And this is the story of my 2018 and into 2019, spending a whole year being dumbstruck by some of the things that I was learning about who I had become while I was wearing the mask. So the mask came off and I didn't like what I saw underneath. And it's taken me a long time to get to this point. Even up to the last, 14 months ago, going wrestling with suicidal ideation, even in that time with stress and anxiety and depression and exhaustion, my body crying out for rest. If this is you, it's vital that you listen to the signs, listen to what's going on. You start to know yourself when you do that. So you've got to work on that inner game. You've also got to level up in philosophy, the way you think, in your emotional intelligence. Now, that phrase is really badly understood. There's a lot of people out there. These are the same people, by the way, who think they have excellent communication skills. I can't write that on my resume. I just don't feel like I'm a master of communication because communication embodies so much. And so I don't do that. But emotional intelligence is also something that people say about themselves when they know it isn't true, or they don't understand what emotional intelligence is. And so I recommend that if you don't know who you are and you're not being who you are, there's a little bit of exercise here to go and study the field of emotional intelligence. Why do you do the things that you do when you know what you already know? Because you know what not to do, but you still do it. Why do you do that? This is the topic of emotional intelligence. The preliminary, one of the primary authors I've studied that I recommend you can take a look at there is a resource, is Dr. Travis Bradbury. You can go and look at his book. It's called Emotional Intelligence 2.0. It's a bestseller. It's available in all great bookshops. It's available in some really bad ones too, but you can buy it online, of course. That would be a good resource for you. And again, I don't have any affiliation. I don't know Travis. We are connected, but I've never spoken to him. So I can't say he's going to give me any reward for telling you that, but I recommend that you're doing this for you so you can change the way you live in 2023. Would that make a big difference to your life? I would love you to do that. The thing that's been profoundly different as I wrap up this one, I'm going to stop sharing the screen. I don't know why I didn't do that. I apologize. You have me in the top corner there. The thing that made the most profound difference to my philosophy, to my way of thinking, to the way that I think, to my thought processes, is being the proximity to leaders and mentors and coaches and people who have already learned the lessons that I haven't learned yet. I'll say that again. The thing that made the profound, the biggest, most of difference, the way I'm thinking, is the proximity to leaders, to mentors, and to coaches who have already done the thing, learned the lessons that I seek to learn. And those of you know who've seen my wall here, it's a whiteboard, it's full of names. These are my coaches and my mentors. Some of the names you'll recognize. But I want you to, I'm not going to give you them because I don't want you to go and study those names. I want you to pick out the people you admire the most. I want you to figure out, in that admiration, what is it about them that you love the most? Because that, I can tell you, that is your power inside of you. That's your superpower, being drawn and connected to their thing. It's the thing in the forest that connects one plant to another plant. That's how it works. It's all symbiotic. It's all synergistic. These are the magical words. We're all working together. And by getting closer to these people, these leaders, they could be family members, they could be church members, it could be your church leaders, it could be a teacher, a professor, somebody who just has a little bit more wisdom. And the reason why it's important to get close to these is to ask questions of how they think about things, why they think about things. But the most important thing is who they are is the biggest bit of value you can get, because they're going to give you, in conversation, all of the things that you need to step to the next level. And that is why it's worth taking a chance on change. So I hope that works for you. and more people queuing up to get in here. So I hope that works for you. And that's the topic of philosophy, the way of thinking. So we'll do that. Now let me pin my screen. So I pin my screen. Welcome to David. Welcome. You can keep your screen off, keep your screen on. If you want to say hi, do that. Drop some comment in the chat. That's okay. We are a little bit way down the line here. We are going to go to the number 2 item. I'm going to share my screen again. So let's jump over to the screen. And this is the second item in why 2023 is going to be your best year ever. So I hope you're taking good notes. Keep taking those notes. If you have questions, drop them in the chat. I'll answer those at the end. And if you're watching on the recording, wherever you're watching this video, remember, put your questions in and I will endeavor to get back to you and make sure that we have a conversation about your specific question. Second point that I would love to make to you today is your attitude. Your attitude going into 2023 is going to make all the difference to this 365-page book that we're talking about. It's going to make all the difference about the result at the end. So as you write your classic day by day, the attitude you bring matters. There's two types of attitude, and I'm going to tell you a little story about me so you can connect to, oh yeah, that would have required a different type of attitude. So let me stop sharing screen. I'll tell you the story. First thing is, in 2009, I'd come to the end of an extremely dark and difficult period in my life. I'd experienced a serious physical injury, which then resulted in emotional pain and suffering and recovery. I lost a job. So it was the first time I'd experienced job loss in my entire career. Never happened up until that point. I had a serious relationship breakdown that involved separation anxiety because I'd been a stepfather to a son. I had my own home. I didn't know where I was going to live. We had a wonderful dog, Leo, who was a Weimaraner. And so all these painful experiences, these tragic events, relationship broke down, all of that leading up to what some of you know in my story is probably the most emotional and difficult thing I've ever had to deal with. And that was the passing of my mum just a few months later. And I'm welling up. So bear with me as I say that. It was very, very difficult to deal with. But it's attitude that makes the difference. How you think. Remember, I had, prior to that, a lot of training on philosophy, the prior topic, the way of living, the way of thinking. And I was very philosophical about death. In fact, I deal with my own death almost every day. I think about that. And so it's important that you see that too. But your attitude matters. So here's the story. At the end of that 2009 period, when I was feeling really low and dark, I knew I was going to have to be more fearless to embrace my life, because I didn't want to have the tragedy that had happened to my mom and not feel like I didn't give it everything, that I didn't live my life to its maximum. And I'd already had this mission beforehand to leave the United Kingdom. Yeah, this is not a Carolina accent, Florida accent. This is a British accent, born and raised over there, British and Irish. So I have Irish on my father's side, and my mother is a mixture of English and Welsh heritage lineage. And so that was where I lived. But I decided to be fearless and not fearful, in that it's now time to go. Time to reach out and travel the world. And I'm a person who didn't leave his hometown until he was 28, 29 years old. Born and raised in the same town, in homes within 5-10 miles of each other. And I was so fearful of what that would mean. What if it's terrible? What if it's not as good a life as I've got here? What if I lose all my friends? What if I don't find work? What if I don't find somewhere to live? All these things. And this is vital for you to understand, that fearful feelings of fearfulness, attitude of being fearful, will always hold you back from having your best year ever. So if 2022 didn't go too well for you, make the analysis for yourself. Was I being fearless, or was I being fearful? And sadly, and we all have to own up, including this guy, that we are fearful more than we would love to be fearless. And I can point a picture. Many of you won't jump out of a perfectly good plane. Why? You're fearful. Some of you are looking at this going, already done it 500 times. Fearless. And there are other elements we can think about. Some of you drive a car at 60 miles an hour, facing cars coming the other way at 60 miles an hour. Fearless. but the chances of something nasty happening if you collide is really high. And if we focused on that thing, we would be fearful. And most people, there are people in this world who do not drive cars for being fearful of that exact event. So they've minimized their risk, but then they don't get the experience of driving, and they don't have that independence or autonomy around being in a vehicle. These are vital things for you to understand. I'm talking about fearlessness and fearfulness. This is what was going on to me. Now, UK, that was 2009, on the back of a very tragic event, came to the US and had this period of what I would call stellar growth, driven by my own personal and professional development, completed up until that time. Remember, I'd been going to webinars and to seminars and to live shows all over the world. In fact, I spent tens of thousands of dollars investing in that. And then I had all this knowledge. And it was only really by the age of 29, 30 that I started to deploy that knowledge. And then as I got into the 2010s in the last decade, there's this incredible experience of being able to share that knowledge and lead with that knowledge and apply that knowledge so that it could make a massive difference into my career. So if you're somebody who knows a lot, the reason why you're not making progress is because you're not sharing, you're not leading, you're not serving others, you're keeping the knowledge to yourself. As I am the North Star, please come to me. I'm the brightest star in the sky, please come to me. You're focused on what you can get, not what you can give. And the more you give, the more that will come. This is an attitude of fearlessness. Let go of this wisdom. By the way, when you share that wisdom, you will become wiser yourself. I guarantee that. Watch out for that. Share wisdom, you become wiser. So the same reality happened in when I lived in California. I had to be fearless to leave a very comfortable career trajectory, which was kind of crawling along like this. Some people would say, James, you were really well paid. You had a really great job. You had great brand presence. True. But I didn't have growth. And the thing for all of us is if we don't feel like we are growing, if we don't feel like we are progressing, if we don't feel like we are going up like a rocket ship, and that we, press a button and we go at 1,000 miles an hour. If we don't have that, then we don't feel fulfilled. We don't feel content. We don't feel like we have meaning. And so attitude is impacted by that. So we can be more negative if we're growing a little bit versus where we're growing big time. And I had to have that same experience. So in 2016, 17, I made this decision to move again. And I always make the joke, and maybe I shouldn't, for those Americans, please bear with me as I say this, but I moved from California to Texas. They are two very different places. So there was a lot of fearfulness about the decision in the beginning, but I had to be fearless to make the transition. And the reason why I share this with you is because it's the same reality for everybody. I said right up at the beginning, we have the same reality. Reality is neutral. Flying from California to Texas to set up home is the same reality for everybody. The perception of that is different for everybody. The meaning associated with that is different for everybody. So you have to keep that in mind. Now, I love this philosophy and this analogy, which I'm going to give to you because I want you to make notes on this. Imagine if we would be in a much better place if we were all ants, A-N-T-S. You know why? Because ants never quit. Ants always find the way, and they'll keep going until death. You ever played with an ant and you moved them around and they just move it around. They don't give up ever. This is the way they live. They thrive, in fact, in chaos. And right now, aren't we living in chaos? And they thrive in that environment. So be an ant for 2023. Keep going, different directions, left, right, turn, whatever you need to do until death, because that's the way to go. that makes sense. I don't want to be too morbid about this, or in fact, I do want to affect your mortality. I want you to realize I came to America because of my mortality, because my mum died terribly young. And I didn't want to not know what I could achieve if I could step outside the boundary of the comfort. I wanted to demand more of myself. I wanted to step into my esteem. I wanted to do exactly what I'm doing right now. Stand on stages, talk to people, make an impact in lives, be the captain of the ship, even if I'm not the top sailor, even though I'm not the #1 gunner, even whatever it may be. I wanted to do that. I have that leadership role. And that requires fearlessness. This is attitude. I hope this is making sense to you. Thrive in chaos, because the reality is the same for everybody. Your perception is what's making the difference. And if you can shift your attitude so that you are fearless, you'll notice massive difference writing this story for the remainder of 2023. Okay, let's jump in. This is slide 3. The first one was philosophy, second one was attitude, and here we are, number 3. I'm going to give you 6, so we're coming up to halfway. Bear with me. I know that I'm right on time. Actually, in a good spot to give you all this well within 60 minutes, so you'll be fired up going into 2023, which is just 2 days away. Okay, number 3. I wrote endeavor on the slide, but actually what I want to describe this to you as is relentless endeavor. I believe that there are 3 things that we need to be, and they all begin with the letter R. We do need to be resilient. And if you're watching this, you are resilient because you survived COVID. You had to be resilient for that. And you had to be relentless for that. So you've done those things. These are really important. Resilient. You need to be relentless in that you're never going to give up, but you also have to be resourceful. It's got to be those 3 things. If you are resilient and you know how to survive and you know how to change direction and you know that you'll win no matter what, and you're not going to accept the life you've got, and you live with a little bit of disgust. I don't want to live this life I'm living. I'm disgusted by it. In fact, I don't like this life. That's what we want. You're resilient and relentless, and you're going to be resourceful to shift it. That's vital for you. So as we go into this next one, this is relentless endeavor. The reason why sometimes we're not relentless, the reason why we don't necessarily have an endeavor it's referred to by one of my mentors as a meaningful pursuit. The reason why we don't have this, we just gave up on our goals because we achieved some. In fact, you might be watching this and you are successful. You could be a successful farmer, baker, business owner. You could be a director, a vice president, a manager. I don't know what you are. I don't know what you do. But I do know this, you're already successful because of your relentless endeavor already. And then you achieve some goals and now you feel a bit flat. I'm not sure this is the right thing for me anymore. Yeah, we need some new endeavor, new places to head. And sometimes why we don't feel good there is because we compare ourselves to, well, I put all this effort in, I achieved these goals, but she's still further ahead of me. He's still further ahead than me. And I don't know. If I put in more effort, am I going to close that gap? This happens. This happens for us. You've got to watch this. And this is externalizing our lives, externalizing our outcomes, and we worry about what the outcomes are. My gift to you here is let go of, well, that's been done already. Let go of, I don't even know whether I'm good enough. I don't even know whether I'm smart enough. I don't even know if I'm techie enough. I can't keep up with technology. You ever feel like that? Zoom and all the internet, the amount of software applications you can load onto Zoom, as well as all the things you can manage for CRM and other things. You're even at work, you've got to learn Microsoft Teams, you've got to learn Zoom, you've got to know Salesforce, you've got to know all these tools and technology is way even over us. Hey, listen, it's not technology. It's you, it's us, it's me. It's just inexperience. Technology is designed to make things easier, to present opportunities for us. So don't be fearful of that. You don't have to be techie. You just have to be more consumed by the ability that you're going to get the experience that you can handle that technology and just get better as you go. So that's it. Drop that not good enough piece. You don't need to worry about that as much. Here's a phrase that you can write down. These are notes that you can write down here for how you get your relentless endeavor, because don't get stewed up about passion and purpose. I don't need you to have passion. I don't need to have purpose or your reason or your why. I need you to make a decision, to commit, to pursue excellence for you, whatever that is for you. And as you do that, as you make that decision to commit to pursue something of excellence for you, so you become the very best version of you, I guarantee you'll always migrate towards the thing that you're supposed to be doing, and you'll find it in your heart. And your heart won't let you down. And then remember, we talked about your gut instincts earlier. It's the gut instincts that give you that passion. And the passion tends to follow your activity. You heard that phrase. Like, the best place I heard it was from the wonderful couple, Tom and Lisa Bilyeu. Tom Bilyeu says he's the founder of Quest Nutrition. He actually sold that company now, and now the founder of Impact Theory. And again, I have no affiliation with Tom, and I don't get rewarded for talking about him. But he has this phrase, action cures all anxiety. And it's your action that leads you to where you need to go. And then your passion will turn up and show if it's in the right place. If your actions take place and you don't become passionate, it might not be the right thing. And it's okay to quit early, by the way. A lot of people say, don't quit. No, don't quit the right thing. Quit the wrong thing immediately. You should learn those failures and make sure you quit the wrong thing immediately so you can move closer to where you need to be. That's what's important. I'll say it again. Decide to commit, to pursue excellence for you. That is the relentless endeavor. That's what resilience is all about. That's how you can become resourceful. Keep navigating to think, I'm in this process too, just like everybody else. We have to keep adapting. We have to keep innovating. We have to keep changing so we can get the results we're looking for. Is it making sense? Okay, we've got 3 more points to wrap up with. I'm going to go back to the screen so you can see the 4th one. And let's just click on here. Number 4, for your best year ever in 2023 is the topic of assessment, measurement, being more precise with your numbers, quantifying what's going on in your life. This is vital for you. The reason why a lot of people don't get the successes they're looking for is because they spend their time being reactive. We react to life. And this was me. I did this for decades. Reaction, 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 and having this external view that it was always somebody else's fault, never my fault. And when we do that, when we live in this reactive state, well, we don't feel comfortable, we feel stressed and we have exhaustion and we are anxious and we experience depression, all of that is reactionary. It's because when we are not measuring our actions and our results, we don't know what to change. So I speak to people in these kind of introductory meetings and we have conversations around where are you now, current state and reality, what's going on for you, normally about pain. And then we talk about desired state and reality. Where would you like to go to? And my job is to help people transform using a little bridge between the two. We talk about the blockers on the bridge. But most of the time in their current state and desired, a current state and reality that's going on for them, I ask them how they quantify the results today. And it's as much as 95 to 99% of those people have no measurement for their life. There's no documentation of, I tried this, this was the result, I changed this, and then I went a different direction, then I went right, then I went left, then I tried this. People aren't able to tell me that. And it's certainly not written down, even if it's in their head. And that's a really important point for you. Don't store things in your head because you won't be able to keep them with all the other noise in there. Remember, we're being bombarded with messages and your brain is just filtering based upon that philosophy we started this conversation with. And if you're thinking the 90% of the same thoughts every day, you're not open. You're not open to possibility. You're not seeing solution and you're not seeing the possibilities for you. So assessment is vital. How do we get to the point where we become good at this? Oh, sorry, one more problem with this. If you are having a difficulty in knowing what to quantify in your life and what to measure and what results you're looking for and where that's being documented, one of the habits you may be in is asking how, not who. How can I do that? If I only knew how to do that. How's not the question. The question is always who. Who knows how to do this? Find the person that you can role model, that you can be inspired by. So if there's let's say you are a manager in an organization and your dream is to climb to president or chief executive, guess what? You got to find the president or chief executive that you admire and find out why you admire them and not ask how. Who is it? And then move to proximity. Remember, I talked to you about proximity to leaders, and whether it's parents, church leaders, it could be your coaches, your mentors, your proximity to those people makes a difference. And don't be blinded by managers who won't let you talk to the manager above you. That's not needed. So be very careful about that too. Now, how do we do this? When you do this, here are the results for you. The results are confidence. And you hear me talk about the word confide, with trust. There's etymology where its origins from. Acting with trust is confidence. But before confidence comes courage. So this whole section around assessment is you've got to start taking action. Create the tracking measurement sheets for you to track results based upon your actions. So you write your actions down, what your desired outcome is, preferably in a quantifiable format. So you've got numbers in there. I'll achieve X number of things by Y deadline. Those things are quantifiable, so we can then measure, okay, I didn't get that result. I can now debrief and reset what needs to change. And here's a good way to track this. A long time ago, I worked with a guy called Laurie. Now, I haven't seen Laurie for decades, but he taught me a really useful way to start making assessments of what was going on in his debrief. So his own debrief process included strawberries and raspberries. Raspberries, not good. Strawberries, good stuff. So think about the projects you're working on. If you're in a manager role, you're working with a team, you may be on a project. As you go through your debrief, your assessment, your measurement, think about all the strawberries. What went well? What tasted good? What was sweet? That's good. We did that good. We just got any more of those strawberries. And then think about all the things that went badly. So communication, always going to be in there. Wasn't enough communication. So you're going to see some of the things that I talked about in the 5 C's video. If you haven't seen that video, by the way, just copy and we'll give you the link for it. Communication wasn't good. Okay, so next time, how are we going to change the communication? What's the new approach? Who knows how to communicate better? Who knows how to run this project? Who knows how to do this product? Who knows how to market? Who knows how to sell? You understand where I'm going with this? It makes sense. Okay, so that's number 4, assessment. I just hope this is sinking in. You're taking really good notes, and we're going to keep going here. I'm going to jump back into the screen. Got 2 more to go, and we will be done. And this will be awesome wrap for you. How to have, why you're going to have the best year ever in 2023. Number 5, habits. Habits, and I'm going to tell a little bit of story here before I jump into this topic. Here's habits. I had a coach who I worked with, Denise, and Denise, a couple of things that I've always kind of held on to. In the end, it all comes back down to how much personal development have you done? How much professional development have you done? And how has all of that development work impacted your habits, your practices, and your daily actions? And Denise was the lady that cemented that based upon her mentor's work and her coach's work. And now I'm reinforcing it from lots of other different places and realizing I raise my standard with new habits, stack good habits on top of good, and then it just get better and better. You can replace those. And those old habits and the things we weren't doing so well, the one thing I used to do really badly was put things in this that shouldn't be there. Incredible amounts of alcohol. Addictions. Think about addictions of the mind, addictions of our eating, our emotional addictions. All of those things are just dragging you down. And so whether it's alcohol or drug abuse or porn addiction or TV addiction, you're addicted to watching box sets upon series, and you're wasting your own time. And you wonder why you don't get results. It's because you just sat through 4 episodes back to back of the latest documentary about your megastar, superstar, somebody you admire, but actually a lot of the content in that material was feeding your bad philosophy. That's the bad habits. So we become unaware when we're addicted. We're not aware of what we're doing. And so then that increases our stress. In fact, your bad habits are driven by 2 things: how stressed you are and how bored you are. So go back to philosophy, go back to attitude, go back to relentless endeavor. And now if you had something that you were meaningfully chasing every single day and you were focused and disciplined on that, how could it possibly be that you would ever be bored? Because your passion would be fired up and you'd be working on the right thing. If you are not passionate about the thing that you do, you are bored. And when you're bored, you're inserting bad habits to distract you from doing the thing that you don't want to do. That's vital stuff. So you must take that. And so some of those boredom habits look like complaining all the time. I was talking about somebody recently and having a conversation about this individual, and I've distanced myself completely now. So there is barely any conversation. That actually ended about 15 months ago, because what I'd learned was there was no way the person would not speak without making a complaint. And then I learned the connection was boredom. This person is bored with their life. They have no adventure. They don't think the right way because they're programmed 90% of the time in bad thought. Their attitude is fearful. I'm not going to take action. It's too risky. I can't possibly do this. even though my dream is to run my own business. Actually, in this case, it's somebody who wants to run their own business, but they're so fearful that they won't take the fearless action to cure the anxiety, to insert some adventure in their life and move forward. And then they've got all these other reasons. In fact, I'm going to come on to number 6 in a minute, and you'll see this is the biggest reason they won't take any action. But that's it. A quote for you. This is me. I wrote this one. Your habits are your living standard. We can rephrase that. Your habits are your standard of living. If you are not happy with your living standard or your standard of living, I tell you, it's your daily habits. That's it. And that is a compression of everything I've learned from the work I did with Denise, the work I've done with Brendan Bashard. If you know Brendan, the work I've done with Brian Tracy's, one of the greats. I've listened to Jim Rohn and Tony Robbins and all of these others. Habits and practices and your daily actions. These are the things that are why your living standard is the way you live. So if you don't have what you want for your family or your friends or the people close to you, and you don't have the money in your money accounts, and you don't have the niceties of life that you would love to have, that you think are going to make you feel better. By the way, they're not going to make you feel better. That has to happen on the inner game. That was right in the beginning of this session. You've been created in the image of your higher self. It is your job with your habits to act like that, to act in the image of your higher self. Remember, I opened this up with one incredible thought, is that the chances of your grandparents meeting so that your parents could meet, so that you could be here, that's why we're so unique and so different. So that's really important, that you know you are created in this image of something bigger than you. And now it's important that you act like it with those habits. So create the habits and practices that are going to make the massive difference for you. I'm going to jump to number 6. We are wrapping this up. We're 14 minutes from the hour, I really enjoyed having this conversation. All of this is recorded, by the way, so anybody got comments now, questions, we can answer those. Anybody below, if you want to put comments in, we'll endeavor to get back to you and have a conversation with you as well. Let's go back to the screen. I will share with you the number 6 item, why you are going to have the best 2023 ever, and I'll stick that in here. This is number 6. Oh, I click on it and it's not moving. Oh, okay. There's no slide for it. Okay, that's okay. No slide for it, but I'm going to just talk you through this. Number 6, for your best 2023 ever, why you will have that, is the topic of financial independence. I was going to talk to you a little bit about my story so you understand exactly how I achieved financial independence. How did I get to the point where I was no longer dependent on somebody else to pay my bills, to live the standard I wanted to continue living? It's not financial freedom. There's a difference. Financial freedom means you're never doing anything again because the money's always there. There's always a financial safety net. Independence means you just don't be dependent on anybody else. You don't need a paycheck. You don't have to have that. You've got enough nest egg for you to survive for months and months and months, years and years and years. But it does mean you still have to engage yourself in something meaningful, that you do have to have that relentless endeavor to do something that's going to bring you some more money so you can move towards financial freedom. Is that making sense? Now, number one thing you do not have financial independence comes down to money blocks. And money blocks are everywhere. It's conditioning given to you by your parents. You know, maybe I grew up in a very unique place. I had a poverty conscious parent and a prosperity conscious parent. There's a conflict. You see how that might have given me some money blocks? One who was prosperity conscious, I had to think about that, and that's one thing. And then the other one saying, you know, money doesn't grow on trees. These are the things that impact us, and we don't realize how much they impact us. We carry it around with us. So I was carrying the weight of poverty consciousness, prosperity consciousness, and dealing with the conflict that goes on between the two, which was right. You ever had this? And so money blocks are everywhere, and you'll have your own money blocks. That somebody once told you maybe that money doesn't grow on trees and that it's a scarce resource. And that's not true either. Money is everywhere, even in a recession, which is why 2023, just like 2008 and 2009, is a really good place to start doing something to leap you forward. Because in times of challenge, that's the bit where you can grow the most. When things are difficult, you don't want it to be easy outside. You don't want it easy to be easy in the marketplace or easy in your workplace or easy in your life. You can't grow when it's easy. When it's easy, you're just not doing anything. Growth is that slow curve. You're just not going to feel like you're getting any progress. And so challenging times right now, 2023, that's the bit where you got to look at those money blocks and figure out, why did you do that? Financial independence, in my opinion, is a decision, and being serious about that. And the place where you start is, and this is where I see this as well, same conversation with my clients. We tend not to have this in introductory calls. So if I met you, we wouldn't talk about your finances. But if you became a client and we were working together and you were telling me that money was one of the reasons why you couldn't do something, we would start to have a financial independence conversation about your decision to be there. Most people haven't decided. Most people are taking paychecks on the belief one day they can retire to do the thing they want to do. And that's not the way to be thinking about this. Thinking about strict account management of your money accounts, what goes in, what goes out, is the first place to start. If you don't have your handle on that, and you don't have a good method for that, and maybe a task spreadsheet, or you know your bank and you track your bank, but if you've got all these money blocks and you've not made a decision and you're not keeping track of, you don't have strict accounts, this is going to hold you back. And if you don't know finances, coaches, mentors, leaders, people who have walked on ahead of you, and you can even get books really cheap. There's about 5 or 10 different financial books on that shelf, and they are all designed to teach financial independence, not freedom, just to not be dependent on anybody else anymore for you and for your family and for others and for whatever we want to do. Freedom is something different. By the way, though, financial freedom, the number is not as big as you think for you. So that's also within the realm. It's certainly within a time period. You know, if you think if you're 30 or 40 right now and you plan to retire in your 60s and 70s, financial freedom is available for you easily. But if you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s right now and you don't have enough money, you messed up. And what you need is a life coach. You don't need a financial coach at this point. You need someone to fix your life, because there's some things going on in your philosophy and your attitude and what's going on with your endeavor that just aren't aligned. And those things don't allow you to make the money because of this last thing. As we think about financial independence, is you're not bringing the value. So here's the story. Going back to the 2000s, sometime between 2006 and 2008, my personal debt at that time, now this does include property too, but at that time was hundreds and hundreds of thousands of debt. 2006-07. In 2012, I became debt-free, and I've lived debt-free ever since. It took 5 years of managing the number accounts, managing the money accounts, increasing my value to eliminate all of the debt, and then live debt-free for the next 10 years. Now, can you imagine if you're completely debt-free, you don't have a car payment, you don't have a house payment, your bills are under control, you can pay those with the income that you have. Imagine that. You don't have credit card debts, you don't have huge loans, all of that's paid off. You don't, that mortgage, death grip, that death grip, you don't have that either. Now, you can get another one if you want. It depends on your stability and your risk profile and how you want to live your life. I personally choose not to have one. That's the coaching of one of my mentors. Don't have a mortgage. That's going to impact the ability for you to do other things. But you can have a mortgage if you want stability and you know you're not going to move around, particularly if you're not going to move for 7 years. Good chance that house could really increase in value. So that might be a good asset, but it's always a liability while you live in it. And that mortgage will always be a debt for you. In fact, the bank, you're just renting from the bank. It's the way to think about that. But when you manage strict accounts and you increase your value, all these things go away. So a lot of this comes back down to that fearlessness and that fearfulness and where you are focused. Okay, so if you see this video or if you're watching right now, look, I want to tell you about, before the end of this year, we are running, there are 2 more spots for our 12-week program. This is the first time I'm launching this. So if you want one of those 2-week spots, 2 spots, it's a 12-week program. We coach live every single week, one-on-one. It won't happen again one-on-one, by the way. There's group coaching at the beginning of every month. So on the 1st of every month, 1st of January, 1st of February, 1st of March, you can join the group and we can give you group coaching on what will your goals and your direction be for that month. And then there'll be live training in there, Q&A to be able to give you all of that. And all of this is down at a knockdown price. It's 75% off the retail price. If you're interested in that, drop me a note wherever you saw this video, and we'll have a conversation about getting you enrolled in that. And don't worry, if you're seeing this earlier than New Year because it's the first time the video was posted to you, then that's okay too. Just sign up, because this is the only time that we will offer this at this level. And I want to make sure that those 6 things we went through today, that the way you think, your standard of living, your attitude, that it becomes fearless, and you think about that you can thrive in chaos and you can be the ant. That's important. I want you to be relentless with the endeavor and the meaningful pursuits that you work on. I want you to take better quantification and measurement of your life. Start assessing yourself more routinely. It doesn't have to be daily. Weekly would be great. Some people only do this on a monthly basis. Then deploy the right habits and practices and actions based upon all the learnings you get. And you start stacking those habits on top of each other, and you'll start to realize my value is increasing. As your value increases, you'll get promotions, you'll get pay raises, you'll be attracted to headhunters, you'll be moving to different directions, you'll start new career paths, you may start a business, just like I did. You may run one business for a little while, shut that business down, then start another one, just like I did. That's going to happen for you. But all these things have to be in play, you tie them all together, and this is what we coach in a 12-week curriculum. But we're expending it over that 12 weeks. You get all of those processes. Each week is a different topic. We train you on all of those things. And by the end of the 3 months, you'll have made 3 years progress in 3 months. I guarantee you. So if that's for you, I welcome you to come in and have a conversation with us. But right now, have a wonderful New Year's Eve, whatever it is you're doing for New Year's Eve. And don't drink too much. Remember, why do we do what we do when we know what we know? We know not to drink too much. So don't drink too much. But you know that phrase. And so I want you to have a wonderful new year and enjoy your period as you plan yourself for this 365-day challenge that I'm setting for you. But I'd love for you to come and join us inside the coaching program. So I look forward to speaking to you real soon.